The brown leather briefcase felt heavier than it should have as President Kennedy handed it to Barry Goldwater in the dimly lit study of the Carlyle Hotel's penthouse suite. It was 8:47 p.m. on November 21, 1963, less than 24 hours before Dallas would become synonymous with national tragedy. Outside, New York City glittered in the darkness, unaware that two political rivals were meeting in absolute secrecy to discuss the unthinkable. "Barry, if something happens to me in Texas, everything you need to know is in here," Kennedy said, his Boston accent more pronounced than usual, a sign of stress Goldwater had learned to recognize. "The combinations, the bank box locations, the names. It's all there." Before I reveal what was in that briefcase and why Goldwater kept it hidden for 35 years, hit subscribe if you want to know the real story behind JFK's assassination. Comment below, do you think Kennedy knew he was going to die? The president looked haggard, his famous tan faded to an unhealthy pallor. The Addison's disease he'd hidden from the public was clearly taking its toll, but there was something else in his eyes, the look of a man who'd seen his own death approaching and made peace with it. "Jack, what the hell are you talking about?" Goldwater set the briefcase on the mahogany table between them. "You're going to Texas for a political fence-mending trip, not a war zone." Kennedy poured 2 generous measures of scotch, Chivas Regal, Goldwater noted, not the Irish whiskey Jack usually preferred. "Barry, we've been opponents but never enemies. I need you to understand that distinction now because I'm about to trust you with something that could destroy everything, my legacy, my family, maybe even the country." "Why me?" "You have Bobby, your whole inner circle. Bobby's too emotional, too invested. He'd do something rash." "My inner circle?" Kennedy laughed bitterly. "Half of them are compromised, the other half are being watched. You're the only one with the credibility, the connections, and most importantly, the patience to handle this correctly." Kennedy moved to the window, staring down at Madison Avenue. "Do you know why I'm really going to Dallas? It's not about the Democratic Party unity or the 1964 election. It's about survival, mine and the country's." "You're not making sense, Jack. Lyndon has been moving against me." The words came out in a rush as if Kennedy had been holding them back for months. Not publicly but in the shadows. Meeting with people he shouldn't be meeting with. Making promises about Vietnam, about Cuba, about policies I'll never support. Goldwater felt the room's temperature drop. "You're saying your own vice president is orchestrating a coup?" "Not directly. Lyndon's too smart for that. But he's letting others know that if something were to happen to me, certain policies would change dramatically. And Barry, there are people, powerful people, who want those changes badly enough to act on it." Kennedy returned to his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 46 years. "Open the briefcase. The combination is November 22, 63. That's tomorrow's date. If I make it through tomorrow, we'll pretend this meeting never happened. But if I don't..." Kennedy's voice trailed off. Goldwater opened the briefcase with trembling fingers. Inside were manila folders, photograph envelopes, and what appeared to be tape reels. The top folder was labeled simply, LBJ Chicago. "That's the beginning," Kennedy explained. October 1960, just before the election. Lyndon met with Sam Giancana at the Drake Hotel. My father arranged it, thought he was helping. But Lyndon made his own deals, promised things even Joe Kennedy wouldn't promise. The photographs were damning. Johnson clearly visible with the Chicago mob boss, money changing hands, documents being signed. "How did you get these?" "Hoover. He bugs everyone, including his friends. Especially his friends. He gave these to me as insurance, thinking I'd be grateful. Instead, I realized I was surrounded by vipers." The next folder was labeled Dallas Players. Inside were dossiers on dozens of individuals, oil executives, right-wing extremists, Cuban exiles, rogue CIA operatives. Each file contained connections to Johnson, financial records, intercepted communications. "These people want me dead, Barry. Not because of who I am, but because of what I won't do. I won't escalate Vietnam into the war they want. I won't invade Cuba. I won't let them turn America into their personal empire. Then don't go to Dallas. Cancel the trip, plead illness." "I can't. That's the trap. If I show fear now, if I back down, they'll know I know. The conspiracy will go deeper, get smarter. No, I have to go to Dallas and dare them to act in broad daylight. Either they back down or they kill you. Then at least we'll know who they are. Conspiracies work in shadows. Force them into the sunlight and maybe, just maybe, they'll be exposed." Goldwater continued through the briefcase. There were transcripts of phone conversations between Johnson and J. Edgar Hoover, discussing the Kennedy problem. Financial records showing massive short selling of defense stocks by Johnson's blind trust, betting on a policy change that could only come with a new president. Most damning, a memo in Johnson's handwriting outlining contingency plans for sudden succession. "This is enough to destroy him," Goldwater said. "Only if I'm alive to use it. Dead, I'm a martyr and martyrs can't testify." Kennedy refilled their glasses. "There's more. Look at the folder marked Mongoose. Operation Mongoose, the CIA's secret war against Castro." But these documents showed something else. The operation had been perverted, turned into a template for domestic assassination. Training camps in Florida and Louisiana where Cuban exiles were taught skills that could be used anywhere, including Dallas. "They're going to use our own operations against me," Kennedy said. "Plausible deniability. A lone gunman, who's actually a product of our own intelligence community. Who else knows about this? Bobby suspects but doesn't have the proof. A few others have pieces but not the whole picture. You're the only one I'm giving everything to. Why trust me? We're supposed to run against each other next year." Kennedy smiled sadly. "Maybe that's why I trust you. You want to beat me fair and square, not have me handed to you on a funeral bier. Besides, you're the only one they won't suspect. Conservative hero Barry Goldwater working with liberal Jack Kennedy? No one would believe it." They spent the next 2 hours going through every document. Kennedy explained the connections, the motivations, the likelihood of different scenarios. He showed Goldwater a rough diagram of the Dallas motorcade route, a sharp turn at Dealey Plaza that would slow the convoy to a crawl. "It's a killing box," Goldwater said, his military training evident. "Slow-moving target, multiple firing positions, limited escape routes." "Jack, this is insane. Change the route." "Already tried." The Secret Service was overruled by local officials. Johnson's people, coincidentally. Kennedy's voice dripped bitterness. "They've thought of everything. What do you want me to do with all this?" Kennedy pulled out a sealed envelope from his jacket. "Instructions. If I die in Dallas, wait 72 hours, let the initial chaos settle. Then contact these journalists. They're clean, not owned by anyone. Give them pieces, not everything at once. Build pressure slowly. And Johnson? Don't go after him directly at first. He'll be president, have all the power. Instead, expose the network around him. Make it politically impossible for him to work with the conspirators. Force him to investigate or be implicated. This could tear the country apart. Better torn than enslaved. Barry, what they're planning goes beyond killing me. They want to create a permanent warfare state, an America always at war, always afraid. Vietnam is just the beginning." As the meeting drew to a close, Kennedy stood, extending his hand. "I know this is a hell of a thing to ask. You didn't sign up for this. Neither did you." Goldwater shook the offered hand, feeling the weight of what he'd been given. "Jack, for what it's worth, I hope I never have to open that envelope." "So do I. But if you do, promise me something. Don't let emotion cloud your judgment. Be smart, be patient. These people have killed before and will kill again. What about your family? Bobby will want revenge. He'll need your steady hand. Jackie, just make sure she and the children are safe. They know nothing about this." Goldwater left the Carlisle at 11:15 p.m., the briefcase feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. He took a circuitous route back to his hotel, checking for surveillance, the paranoia already setting in. The next day, November 22, 1963, Goldwater was in his Senate office when the news broke. He watched the chaos unfold on television, feeling the briefcase locked in his safe burning like a brand. When the announcement came, "President Kennedy is dead," he opened the sealed envelope with shaking hands. Kennedy's final instructions were clear but complex. A timetable for releases, specific journalists to contact, safe deposit boxes with duplicates of key documents. But the first line stopped Goldwater cold. "If you're reading this, then they've won the first round. Don't let them win the war." For 72 hours, Goldwater waited, watching as the official narrative formed. Lee Harvey Oswald, lone gunman, communist sympathizer. No conspiracy, no broader plot. Johnson sworn in on Air Force One, Jackie still in her blood-stained pink suit. The machinery of government grinding forward as if nothing had fundamentally changed. On November 25, as Kennedy was laid to rest at Arlington, Goldwater made his first move. He contacted Ben Bradlee at the Washington Post, arranging a meeting through intermediaries. But when they met, Bradlee's first words chilled him. "Senator, I've been told you might have some documents. I've also been told that publishing them would be considered an act of treason during this time of national mourning." "Told by whom?" Does it matter? The message was clear. The country needs stability now, not conspiracy theories. Goldwater realized the network Kennedy had warned about was already moving to control the narrative. Over the following weeks, he watched potential allies back away, saw journalists suddenly reassigned, noticed how certain stories disappeared from newspapers before publication. The Warren Commission was formed, its conclusions seemingly predetermined. Goldwater considered approaching them with Kennedy's evidence but noticed something disturbing. Several commission members were mentioned in the briefcase documents as having connections to Johnson or the intelligence community. In December 1963, Goldwater received an unexpected visitor, Robert Kennedy, hollow-eyed with grief and suspicion. They met at Goldwater's home, away from Washington's prying eyes. "Barry, Jack told me he gave you something. Said if anything happened, you'd know what to do." Goldwater studied the younger Kennedy, seeing Jack's determination mixed with a rawer, more dangerous emotion. "He did. But Bobby moving too fast could get us both killed. They murdered my brother." "Yes. And they'll murder you too if you're not careful. Jack knew that. It's why he gave this to me, not you. He knew you'd want immediate revenge." They spent hours going through the documents together, Bobby's face darkening with each revelation. Johnson, that bastard, knew. Maybe not the specifics, but he knew something was coming. Knowing and proving are different things. "We need to be strategic." "Strategic? They blew my brother's head off in broad daylight. And if we're not careful, they'll do the same to us. Or worse, discredit everything as the ravings of a bitter political rival and grieving brother." They developed a plan. Bobby would use his position as Attorney General to quietly investigate specific leads. Goldwater would work his contacts in the military and intelligence communities. Slowly, carefully, they would build a case that couldn't be ignored. But the network fought back. In March 1964, Bobby's secretary died in a suspicious car accident after copying certain files. A journalist preparing a story on Johnson's mob connections fell from his apartment window. The message was clear: push too hard and people die. Goldwater's own presidential campaign in 1964 became a casualty of the conspiracy. Johnson's team painted him as a warmonger, an extremist who would start World War III. The irony wasn't lost on Goldwater. He was being destroyed by the very man who was secretly escalating the war Kennedy had tried to prevent. Behind the scenes, he received warnings. Phone calls with breathing but no words. Photographs of his family taken from distances. Once, returning to his Senate office, he found a single bullet on his desk, the same caliber that killed Kennedy. After his crushing defeat to Johnson, Goldwater met again with Bobby. "We've lost Barry. He's too powerful now. The presidency gives him control of everything, FBI, CIA, military. We can't fight that. Then we wait." Jack said, "Be patient. Johnson won't be president forever." "And the evidence?" "I've made copies, hidden them in multiple locations. Some overseas beyond their reach. When the time is right." But time was running out for Bobby too. As he prepared his own presidential run in 1968, he became increasingly vocal about reopening the investigation into his brother's death. On June 5, 1968, in a Los Angeles hotel kitchen, another lone gunman struck. Goldwater watched Bobby's assassination on television, knowing with terrible certainty that this was no coincidence. The network was cleaning house, eliminating anyone who might expose the truth about Dallas. That night he made a decision. The direct approach had failed. 2 Kennedys were dead. But the evidence would survive, waiting for a time when it could be safely revealed. He dispersed the briefcase contents to multiple locations. Some went into bank vaults under assumed names. Others were sent to trusted friends overseas. Key documents were photographed and reduced to microfilm, hidden in places no one would think to look. But Goldwater kept certain items. The photograph of Johnson with Giancana. The transcript of Hoover discussing the Kennedy problem. The memo in Johnson's handwriting. These he placed in a special safe in his Arizona home, along with a notarized statement detailing his meeting with Kennedy and everything that followed. Years passed. Johnson declined to run in 1968, broken by Vietnam, the war Kennedy had tried to prevent. Nixon fell to Watergate, another conspiracy that echoed Dallas. The Church Committee revealed assassination plots and domestic surveillance that made Kennedy's warnings seem prescient. In 1979, the House Select Committee on Assassinations concluded there was probably a conspiracy in Kennedy's death. Goldwater considered coming forward then, but received a message through channels: "The desert can be a dangerous place for old men with long memories." He chose silence but not surrender. Instead, he began writing, Not memoirs for publication but a detailed account of everything he knew, everything Kennedy had entrusted to him. This he placed with his lawyers with instructions that it be released only after certain conditions were met. In 1992, Oliver Stone's JFK renewed public interest in the assassination. Goldwater received numerous requests for interviews, all of which he declined. But privately he met with researchers, pointing them in certain directions, confirming or denying theories with careful words. Johnson knew something was coming, he told one investigator off the record. Maybe not the specifics but he knew. And he was ready to capitalize on it. In 1996, 2 years before his death, Goldwater made one last move. He contacted the Kennedy family, arranging a meeting with John F. Kennedy Jr. The son had his father's charm but also a steel determination to know the truth. "Senator, I've heard rumors all my life. That you and my father met secretly. That he gave you something." Goldwater studied the young man, seeing Jack's ghost in his features. "Your father was a brave man. He saw his death coming and faced it with courage. Did he know who? Did he tell you?" "He knew enough. The question is what you do with that knowledge." "I want justice." "Justice? Or revenge?" "Your father understood the difference. It's why he gave the evidence to me, not your uncle. Bobby wanted revenge and it killed him." "Then what should I do?" "Live your life. Be careful. The people who killed your father have long memories and longer reaches. When the time is right, the truth will come out. But that time isn't now." John Jr. left disappointed but alive. 3 years later, his plane crashed into the Atlantic, another Kennedy tragedy that raised questions Goldwater was no longer alive to answer. Goldwater died on May 29, 1998, taking many secrets to his grave. But not all of them. His lawyers, following his detailed instructions, placed certain documents in various archives with time release conditions. Some would open in 2013, 50 years after Dallas. Others were set for 2038, 75 years after the assassination. The first release in 2013 caused a minor sensation among researchers. A photograph of Johnson with Giancana, authenticated by experts. A memo in Kennedy's handwriting discussing the Dallas threat. Enough to confirm suspicions but not enough to rewrite history. But the real bombshell waits for 2038. The complete contents of Kennedy's briefcase. The recordings. The financial documents. Goldwater's own 100-page account of his meeting with Kennedy and everything that followed. When these documents are released, they will show Johnson's active collaboration with organized crime figures, the vice president's foreknowledge of assassination plans, financial evidence of betting against Kennedy's life, CIA and FBI complicity in covering up the conspiracy, the names of those who ordered the killings of both Kennedy brothers, Goldwater's 35-year effort to preserve the evidence while staying alive. Until then, the story lives in fragments. Researchers note the unusual meeting between Kennedy and Goldwater in New York on November 21, 1963. They wonder about Goldwater's uncharacteristic silence on the assassination. They puzzle over his cryptic comments about knowing too much. The Carlisle Hotel suite where they met has been renovated many times, but staff report strange occurrences. Guests hear voices and animated discussion. Security cameras capture shadows of two men by the window. The hotel safe, they say, sometimes opens on its own, revealing nothing but empty space where secrets once rested. In Phoenix, Goldwater's home is now a museum. The safe where he kept Kennedy's evidence has been removed, its contents long ago dispersed to secure locations. But visitors sometimes report a strange feeling in his study, as if the weight of untold history still hangs in the air. The briefcase itself, that brown leather witness to one president's foreknowledge of his doom, sits in a bank vault in Switzerland, one of several locations Goldwater chose for their political neutrality and banking secrecy. The combination lock still set to November 22, 63, waiting for the day when its contents can be fully revealed. Those who knew Goldwater in his final years say he struggled with his silence. He had promised Jack Kennedy to be patient, to wait for the right moment. But as decades passed and the conspirators died peacefully in their beds, he wondered if patience had become complicity. "I kept my word," he reportedly told his son before dying. "Jack asked me to be smart, not brave. To preserve the truth, not avenge it. I did that. Whether it was the right choice, history will judge. History's judgment awaits the full revelation in 2038. But even now, enough has emerged to confirm what many suspected. Kennedy knew death was waiting in Dallas. He faced it with courage and forethought, entrusting his legacy not to friends or family but to his most honorable opponent. And Barry Goldwater, the conservative warrior who disagreed with Kennedy on almost everything, spent 35 years protecting the liberal president's final truth. In the end, that may be the most remarkable part of the story, that in America's darkest moment, political rivals could trust each other more than their own allies. The countdown to 2038 continues. When the vaults open and the full truth emerges, America will finally learn what Kennedy knew, what Goldwater preserved, and why Dallas was not just a tragedy but a coup. Until then, the briefcase waits, its secrets patient as the grave, its revelations explosive as the shots that echoed through Dealey Plaza. And somewhere, in whatever afterlife awaits American patriots, Jack Kennedy and Barry Goldwater meet again, no longer rivals but brothers in truth, watching as their long-protected evidence finally sees the light of day, vindicating both the president who saw his death coming and the senator who kept his secrets for a lifetime.